Thank you for your comments. We'll move to Ms. Pang, and then we'll open up for questions.
Good afternoon, committee chairs and members. Thank you for having me and for giving CSU students a seat at the table as we discuss the state audit report. My name is Grace Pang, and I'm a sophomore at San Jose State University. This year, I'm serving as the Cal State Student Association's Vice President of Legislative Affairs. In my role, I am tasked with amplifying the needs and concerns of our 500,000 CSU students. I balance the magnitude of this responsibility simultaneously with other normal college student things like my mental health, my academic retention, and my financial burdens from the cost of college attendance. Today, I would like to offer the student perspective on the audit as well as give some recommendations for courses of action moving forward. I'd first like to commend the CSU for their commitment to communication with student leaders moving forward. Following the audit, we have had 3 meetings with the Chancellor's Office regarding our concerns and gaps in information. I would like to especially thank Vice Chancellor Relier for his commitment to making the CSU budget more digestible and accessible to students moving forward. Per our last meeting, I look forward to seeing how we can work together on reforming the transparency portal and potentially the reserves policy. But let's be real. A majority of CSU students have not heard about the findings of the state audit. And for those who have read it, it is still really hard to understand the truth when you've heard 2 very different perspectives. The CSU has defended their reserve, the state auditor's office reports it as a surplus, and in a follow-up meeting with Vice Chancellor Relier, when asked if the CSU could show us where in last year's financial statement is the reserve/surplus disclosed, the line item is labeled as investments. So while there's been great debate between the 2 stakeholders over what to call these funds, I think we can all do a better job at engaging the most important stakeholder of all, which are students. At the end of the day, we are talking about the alleged mismanagement or non-disclosure of direct student dollars. The truth should not be this hard to pursue. As a representative for CSU students, I support and defend the system in having a reserve as part of their fiduciary duty. The main concern from students is not that the CSU has a reserve, but it's that we did not know about it and we still continue to have gaps in information. The Chancellor's Office did not disclose the reserves to students when proposing tuition increases, even though they've been mandated by law to provide students with information about alternatives to raising tuition so that we can provide input and ask questions. This is problematic, especially because tuition dollars directly contribute to reserves. One of our biggest gaps in knowledge include not knowing what the role that tuition plays in reaching the CSU's goals for a larger reserve. I spent the past few weeks trying to sift through the different information being given to students, but also gauging how students have been feeling about the audit. I actually just came from Cal State Fullerton from our CS Unity Conference, comprising of student leaders across all of our 23 campuses. While many students cannot be in attendance today due to wrapping up our conference, I got overwhelming feedback regarding the findings and recommendations of the parking side of the audit. Specifically, it seems like the parking discussion has not had the focus it deserves in comparison to the reserve/surplus debate. Discussing the cost of student parking and how it affects college affordability, I would like to challenge both the system and the state to do better, because a seemingly lower expense means 20% of the monthly paycheck for George Salazar, a Cal State LA student. It means students like Alviana Johnson from CSU Channel Islands had to accumulate many tickets last year from having to prioritize other costs like books and food before purchasing a permit. And according to the audit findings, 4 of our campuses have built expensive new parking facilities that only minimally increased parking capacities. This means not only are students having to choose between buying our textbooks or purchasing a permit, students are also paying for the expensive permits just to not be able to find spots or miss classes due to how long it takes. I am glad that the recommendations regarding alternative transportation are being adopted by the CSU, but there still remains a great inequity in the cost of parking on campus. The audit found that in all 4 campuses surveyed, students pay significantly more for parking than staff or faculty. Students are disappointed that none of the recommendations by the auditor directly address this issue. The high cost of parking is not just a campus issue. The Chancellor's Office did not require campuses to provide required information before it approved funding for new parking facilities. As the Chancellor's Office is currently working on proposals for 2 new parking structures, we echo the state auditor's recommendation to update their parking facilities request policy and mandate student representation on alternate transportation committees. To close out, I would like to thank everyone for your time as we all work towards making the CSU more accessible and more affordable. We look forward to following up with the state auditor's recommendations, fighting for increased transparency and student representation, and working with the CSU and the state to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments and for your voice and for being here.